Romania is a signatory to numerous international conventions on the humane treatment of disabled people. So why are disabled residents of its care homes being abused, neglected and tied up? And why are some of these same institutions in receipt of European Union funding? People and Power sent Sarah Spiller to investigate.
The capital of a modern European city, Bucharest in Romania. Nearly 25 years since the downfall of communism, this country is now a democracy and a full member of the European Union. One of the conditions for Romania joining the EU, reform of care for disabled people here. Images of neglect and abuse in notorious state institutions were to be a thing of the past, or at least that was the theory. We've come here to investigate disturbing allegations about the abuse of disabled people in this country's institutions and the questions this raises. Questions not only for the authorities here in Romania, questions that go to the heart of Europe. Our journey started in Transylvania, near Romania's border with Hungary. We came to Oradea to find out more about this country's system when it comes to caring for the disabled, to meet a young woman who spent most of her life in institutions. Like thousands of other disabled children in Romania, 22-year-old Bella was abandoned at birth. Bella's former school teacher, Oana, has been looking after her over the past year. But Bella grew up in state care, and when she lived in a children's home, Oana says she suffered abuse.
She was tied with her hands at her back. She was put in the bathroom for a month and she slept there and things like this. She wasn't given to eat.
Oana was not only Bella's teacher, she became part of her pupil's life. At 18, though, a place had to be found for Bella in an adult state institution. Yes. She eventually ended up at a psychiatric hospital. Oana became concerned by her condition there.
They have changed very suddenly the treatment and she became aggressive. They have introduced another treatment and being aggressive, yes, she has been restrained. She showed me that she stayed like that. No, she showed me that she stayed like that.
In the course of 1 month last year, it appeared Bella had become seriously ill. Oana persuaded the authorities to discharge her. 2 days later, Bella was admitted to a hospital with suspected pneumonia. What do you think would have happened if you hadn't have gone to get her?
Well, this time I am sure that she would have ended. She would have passed away because the state in which she was when I took her out, it was very bad. These systems don't respect them as human beings.
From Transylvania to Romania's capital, Bucharest, and our researches here were to reveal experiences of disabled people that seemed utterly at odds with the official line, what this country signed up to. In 2006, the authorities here set out a national strategy for people with disabilities. It's a lengthy document outlining respect for the rights and dignity of disabled people, equal treatment and opportunities. It quotes the Romanian constitution, which stipulates that people with disabilities should benefit from special protection. In 2010, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. This reaffirms that disabled people must enjoy all human rights and fundamental freedoms. So that's what they say. But during this investigation, we gained unique access to secret footage from inside this country's state institutions, images gathered over the past 2 years. We also went undercover. What we discovered: squalid conditions, neglect, abuse. This is an institution in central Romania for over 200 adults. These pictures from 2012. Residents live in overcrowded rooms. One elderly woman pleads for help. This room is known as the isolator, a place where the most vulnerable ill people stay. A resident is asked if people have died in here. He answers, Then there are the allegations of physical abuse. Another place, a centre for recuperation and rehabilitation. Residents are afraid to speak inside, but outside they complain of violence from staff. In this institution, in the southwest of the country, more allegations of assault. In many institutions, patients are locked in or tied up. In 2013, these shocking images emerged of young adults strapped to beds, secretly filmed in an institution in Bucharest. And this year, our own undercover research revealed more disturbing treatment. This is a centre for children and youngsters with disabilities. The place seems well equipped. Yet behind a locked door, hidden away, is a 4-year-old girl. Why? It's been estimated there are 16,000 disabled people in state institutions in this country. At this charity in Bucharest, they've been monitoring conditions in these places since 2003. Georgiana Pascu says that despite the official line, despite EU policy, the abuse of people with disabilities has got worse.
The level of abuses is more developed than 10 years ago. We saw a high number of people that complain about the fact that they were beaten. These abuses will continue. This is our perspective at 10 years monitoring institutions. They will not stop.
The evidence we were gathering suggested serious failings in state institutions. Then, during our research, we discovered a plan by state authorities to enlist the help of the private sector. A document on the internet outlined how disabled youngsters at a state home in Bucharest would be transferred to a private centre in the countryside. Further research revealed that officials were prepared to pay around €600 per person per month for these people's care. A promotional film for this private centre in the village of Aldeni near Buzău. What was on offer here seemed a far cry from images we'd gathered of conditions inside Romania's state institutions. They promised a high standard of care. But when we filmed this year, the reality for residents brought here from Bucharest was very different. Behind the barred windows, what we found raised very serious concerns. At first sight, the place was clean, clinical even. Everything seemed fine. But down either side were the rooms, 4 with locked doors. In one, 6 people in 3 beds. Their heads were shaved, their jumpers tied at the sleeves. Staff explained why they treated residents like this.
Vreau să exemplificăm, îi dăm drumul ei și merge direct la coșul de gunoi, deci de acolo caută și înghite tot.
Another locked door. Staff confirmed this was a seclusion room. At first they denied there was anyone in there. But there was. A disabled man with epilepsy who'd had a seizure. Apparently he'd been shut in without medical supervision. This was a private institution. But what do the authorities here know about conditions inside their own state institutions? Quite a lot, it appeared. During our investigation, we learnt of a government report. Last summer, the Romanian authorities carried out their own investigations into institutions for disabled people. In numerous institutions, they found people not being fed or clothed adequately, overcrowding and lack of staff. But this report was kept quiet. It didn't appear on the government website. The road out of Bucharest to an institution that was amongst the worst in this government report. One of the official findings, staff didn't respect guidelines to protect people against abuse and neglect. Yet weeks after the government inspection, these secretly filmed images emerged. It seemed the neglect continued. This resident was left lying unattended for hours. Some were walking semi-naked in the grounds. And months after this, when we investigated, little seemed to have improved either. Inside was a dirty bathroom, damp ceilings. Here, 10 women were sharing one room, which reeked of urine. From here too, allegations of beatings.
And what is it like in here?
Ne-a bătut salariați. Vroia să ne tunde după chelie din nu vroiam.
Our findings around this country were highly disturbing. But on top of this, it seemed disabled people subjected to abuse were without a voice. We discovered that under Romanian law, residents in institutions can be allocated a legal guardian to act on their behalf. But that guardian can be the director of the very institution they're living in. We were told this made it very difficult to complain.
What it will happen if our person would like to complain against the director of the institution? If this director is the same person with the guardian. So this is the main problem with the guardianship.
The Secretary of State responsible for people with disabilities in Romania had agreed to talk to us. And presented with our evidence, he made a number of surprising admissions and promises to act, starting with the government report, the report they hadn't made public. This report paints an appalling picture of conditions inside institutions for disabled people.
If I have the possibility, I will publish immediately.
You will publish that report?
If I have the possibility, if the law permits me to publish it, let me tell you just this, I will publish immediately.
The NGO, the Centre for Legal Studies, has been publishing reports since 2003, and they've told us that the level of abuses have got worse in the last 10 years, worse since you had your national strategy, worse since you signed the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability. What do you think about your vulnerable citizens? Well, what are you going to do about it?
I'm outraged, and I'm doing whatever is necessary, whatever I have the means to do.
We told Mr. Scutaru about this private home run by the Alexandru Ion Foundation. Is it right that state officials in Bucharest are doing that, letting those disabled people go there? What do you make of that?
We'll verify this concrete case today. We'll verify this concrete case today and see whatever is happening over there. Alexandru Ion Foundation.
Yeah. Mr. Scutaru got on the phone. Then he appeared to make up a new policy on the spot about investigating complaints. Is it difficult to complain if you're a disabled person in an institution?
I think it is.
So what are you going to do about it?
This idea came to me today while talking to you. One person from the social spectrum to go to live in the centers, the possibility once or twice a month, the possibility to gather all the complaints of the people over there.
So you're going to do that. You're going to get complaints from all over how many is it? 200 institutions in Romania, and find out what's going on.
Yes.
You're going to do that today.
Yes, thanks to you. You gave me the idea today.
But there was another question that went to the heart of this. It was about the very existence of Romania's institutions for the disabled. When this country joined the EU in 2007, they were told it was a priority to give people with disabilities the right to live in the community, to live independently. For some, images like this of young adults tied to beds at a centre in Bucharest only strengthens the argument for shutting down Romania's institutions once and for all. Aurel's sister lived at that same institution. Mariana died in 2012, aged 38.
Parcă și acum o văd pe lumea pe stradă și de multe ori îmi vine greu. Da? Asta e viața, mergem înainte, mișc.
Aurel now shares a flat with his friend Razvan. Both disabled men grew up in Romanian state institutions. With the help of a foreign charity and with support, they're now able to work and live independently. But they wish their friends, still in institutions, had the same chance.
Deci pentru mine este o viață foarte, foarte ok, dar mă gândesc și pentru iar aici este o viață foarte normală, am independență, am libertate mai mult și pentru mine mi-este foarte greu că ei sunt într-o instituție.
Moving disabled people out of institutions into the community is a key EU policy. And since 2007, Romania has received millions of euros in EU aid. So how's this money been spent? At the offices of this think tank in Bucharest, they've researched this. What they've discovered, nearly 30 million euros that could have been used to help people live in the community has instead been put into renovating over 50 state institutions.
What EU money could have done in these 7 years was to try and give those people a chance to live in the community. But unfortunately that didn't happen. I mean, we have used the EU money for changing the windows and nicely painting the walls, but still having those 50 beds, dormitories for people with disabilities, which are totally inappropriate for a decent living.
But evidence we've gathered also suggests EU money has gone into institutions where there are allegations of abuse. Tantava, a centre for disabled people in the county of Jazeera. In 2012, a news report, an official explains how around €500,000 in EU funding has meant new facilities here.
Arată foarte bine, s-au schimbat caloriferele, s-au schimbat în general utilitățile, avem mobilier nou.
2013. In secret footage, disabled people complain about assault.
Asta e rău, îi tratați de cupătaie,
We went to visit former residents of the Tantava institution, now living in the community. With considerable courage, they spoke openly about their experiences at the centre. The sedation and the beatings they say they suffered as EU money was pouring in.
Bărbații care este angajați acolo pentru că ei se mai duc la într-un centru de ăsta, la bar, se duce și așa, și atunci începe să lovească. Când pe ăla, așa le place lor.
Sunt rele că ne ceartă, ne injectează la acolo, la Tântava.
Injection?
Da, injecție.
Lasă să bată, lasă să lege, sau să-l bată, sau să-l facă injecții, sau să facă să-i dea pastile motivul că a zis doctor că nu știu ce.
Since leaving Tantava with the help of a local charity, these former residents say their lives have been transformed by the most basic freedoms.
Fac baie când vreau, mănânc când vreau, fac mâncare când vreau, mă plimb când vreau.
Toate centrele din Căminele aș vrea să-mi doresc să fie ori final, adică să-și termină din cât mai mult.
From Bucharest to Brussels, to meet the EU Commissioner in charge of the money spent on Romania's state institutions. During our research, we discovered Romania wasn't the only EU member state to have used millions to modernise centres for the disabled. One estimate is that 150 million euros has gone into renovating institutions at the very same time that EU policy is about disabled people living independent lives. What's gone wrong here?
Yeah, to be honest, Rome was also not built on one day. We have to improve the living conditions of people living in institutions because it's apparently not possible to resolve the problem so fast that all the people are getting out of the institutions.
Is there a concern that EU structural funds have gone into institutions in Romania where there have been human rights abuses?
We have no evidence. If there's any evidence, we will certainly follow up.
You have none at all?
For the moment, I'm not aware about it.
There's an institution called Tantava. 500,000's gone into this institution in Romania. Allegations from residents that they've been beaten, tied up and medicated. Is that of concern to you?
If this is true, it's a concern and we will certainly have a follow-up.
But you haven't done any of these investigations in the past, have you? I mean, there have been many reports about human rights abuses in Romania, in institutions, and you've been lobbing the funding in.
We had more than 2 million individual projects around Europe. It's not possible to have a check of all the 2 millions.
This is a list of...
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, no, this is a list which is a publicly available document. It's a list of projects in Romania which have been in receipt of EU structural funds. So what would be interesting would be to, and Tantava is on that list, the institution we were talking about, would be to find out whether there have been human rights abuses in those institutions, wouldn't it?
This we will do.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
After this interview, an official announced that in the future, EU funds will be put into helping disabled people live independently rather than renovating Romanian state institutions. The EU also asked the Romanian authorities to investigate conditions in this place, the Tantava Centre. Elsewhere, inspectors have now visited this private home in Buzău. Disabled residents are being moved to a state institution. And following a recent visit to Romania, the Council of Europe Commissioner for Human Rights said he was seriously concerned by reports of inhuman and degrading treatment in institutions for the disabled. But the legacy of the past, what's happened here, is not easily forgotten. Aurel took us to see his sister's grave. Mariana is buried here, in a cemetery outside Bucharest.
Eu am iubit-o pe sora mea și o iubesc, mi-e în suflet, mi-e dor de ea.
How important is it that people like Mariana are remembered?
Este important că este un om ființă.
Friends of Aurel's, disabled people with no relatives, are buried here too. A charity has put up a gravestone in their memory. People who have lived and died in this country's institutions.